real confidence comes when you can say out loud to clients, to your team, I don't have the answer yet, but I am confident we're going to figure it out together. And it's that ability to move forward despite not knowing, despite being uncomfortable, despite the fear of will I actually come up with the answer. That's what real confidence is. And on the flip side, Jed has told me some pretty interesting stories about CEOs he's worked with over the decades who overconfidence and thinking, on the answers can actually cause a lot of trouble. It can kind of undermine your team. It makes you, take some riskier decisions that you might not make normally, and can lead to, poor decisions and poor performance. So, being certain and overconfident is no longer a goal of mine. So the tips there, and then I love this, I think someone else has said this at the conference, but confidence is a choice. You choose to believe that you can figure it out. So it's not about having the answers, it's about believing in yourself. And that's how we've really redefined confidence and how I use that as a mantra for how I want to lead. Maxwell, author of many, many leadership books, says a leader doesn't have to be certain of every step, they just need to be confident enough to take it. And so I think that really sums it up nicely.
So if I'm honest, after being an executive coach for 20 years, I've come to believe that confidence is actually a choice. I mean, in some ways it's a mind trick, right? As somebody who myself has struggled with confidence at different times in my career, to paraphrase Abraham Lincoln, most folks are as confident as they make up their minds to be. I've worked with extremely confident leaders who had no business being so confident. Like one top executive told me, it never occurs to me that I'm wrong. Yet this guy was wrong all the time, like much to the chagrin of the people that he worked with. His certainty actually created uncertainty in the business. So confidence and competence are not the same thing, and it doesn't necessarily help with uncertainty. What does help, however, is learning to trust yourself in these situations. Not that you're right, but that you can figure out whatever's going on and flex to make it work. It doesn't make the discomfort and uncertainty go away, but it helps you navigate it. If you've suffered from a lack of confidence or imposter syndrome, I've found it actually more the norm, despite what people look like on the outside. In my opinion, you don't need confidence per se. You need the ability to overcome the fear and discomfort and trust yourself in the moment when faced with something new or different. Pro tip, find a personal mantra for the moment, like, I got this. Mine actually is, Jed, of course you can effing do it. It works for me every time when I have doubts.
All right, myth number 4, leadership is about control. I need to make sure that I knew what everybody was doing, what the plan was, being very hyper-involved, or probably AKA micromanaging. So looking into this, this is a Gallup poll, but actually employees don't respond well to micromanaging. That's probably not a newsflash. So managers who are empowering their employees are the ones who are seeing all that high performance. So that's what you're really trying to do, is not be in control, but empowering others to be in control of their own work. So our truth in redefining leadership, not about control, it is about influence. It is about creating an environment for all of your team to thrive, not dictating what they're doing, how they're doing it, and helping them do it. So the tip here, again, if you find yourself falling into control mode where you want to explain and show them how to do something, is more to ask them, again, lots of questions. Jeff said it earlier on, and he says it to me all the time. Inquiry is a superpower, so ask questions. What do you need from me to do your best work? Or what challenges can I help you, barriers I can remove, challenges I can help you overcome? Our mantra, leadership isn't about control, it's about creating space for others to thrive. Another author here, 1 Minute Manager, has been around for a while as a book, but still has a lot of really great things if you want to check that out. But he says the key to successful leadership today is influence, not authority. It's not because I was given the title president. It's the decisions and the actions and how I build relationships with my team, and that's what I've come to realize. There's my friend Jeff.
So I think one of the hardest things for newer leaders is to accept that you actually are not in control, nor would you really want to be, right? That kind of goes against everything you think a leader is supposed to do. But your job as a leader is to set the direction for the team, clear the obstacles for them to succeed in getting there, and help them develop. The inverse of control is empowerment. There's some great research that's done by the Leadership Circle, which is a really well-respected global assessment company, where they correlated the impact of various leadership competencies and the actual results that these leaders created in the real world. It was a huge study with thousands of leaders all around the world. And actually, if you want, you can read more about this in their book, which is called Mastering Leadership, by the founders of the company, Bill Adams and Bob Anderson. Anyway, it turns out in their research that the competencies related to command and control and more autocratic styles negatively correlate with creating actual results. They demoralize people, they hamper productivity, and they stifle innovation and creativity. Instead of trying to control people in situations, I suggest you instead opt for building relationships of trust, being clear with expectations, coaching people where they need help, and trusting them to run with it. It's not always comfortable as a leader, but it turns out to be way more effective.
The fifth, and we've got a lot of charismatic speakers here. I'm the opposite. I'm very informal. This is not giving me a ton of energy, although I do enjoy sharing my story with folks one-on-one. So we're just here as a fireside chat with 50 friends. This is how I'm thinking of this. So I really wanted to think about with my personality, my presentation style, how do I fit with what's expected of a leader? Psychological science, fascinating reading in this magazine, y'all. It shows that actually introverted leaders often outperform the extroverted ones. That made me feel so good about my life. There's hope for me. So the way we've kind of flipped this truth around is that it's not really about charisma or your style or your personality. It's about influence, and often that influence is coming from the trust that you're building with your team, the relationships, the credibility and consistency, that you do what you say you're gonna do. And when you do that enough with your team, with your clients, that's where they want to listen to you, they believe in you. So tip here for me and for others who suffer from this one, lead by listening more than speaking, and really build credibility with your thought, with your follow through, the actions that you take, the results that you have. Leadership is not about spotlight, it's about impact at the end of the day. Jim Collins' Good to Great, I'm sure a lot of you probably read this one. He says the most effective leaders rely principally on inspired standards, not inspiring charisma to motivate. So again, about being a very principled leader, knowing what your values are, how you're building your team, how you're supporting your team. That's what it's really about, not necessarily your personality style.
So when I think about charisma, I think about it as charm and personal magnetism, right? And this can be really useful when rallying people to try to get behind an idea or a commitment. It's a pretty powerful tool for influence. And using charisma can be positive, however, it can also sow distrust because sometimes people feel manipulated by charismatic leaders. Your reputation becomes more sizzle, less steak. As a leader, some charisma may be helpful, but it's not essential. What is essential, however, is gaining people's respect. You don't need charisma to do that. What builds respect and trust is whether people feel you have integrity, you do what you say you will, you treat them with respect and care, you demonstrate your commitment to the work and to the team. It's who you are as a leader that people follow, not what you say, no matter how charismatically you say it. Authenticity really cannot be faked. People really can tell. So if your style is more measured and you don't have the gift of gab, don't worry. Just do the right things and the respect, trust, and influence will follow.
All right, here's another one that maybe I'm the only one who suffers from this, but when I took on this job, I all of a sudden felt like I was mom and dad of the agency. I had to feed my family. I had to make sure that the business was growing, and I was really taking the weight of everyone's success and failures as something like I was taking very personally. So some fun research I found on this one was through MIT that said leaders like me who over-identify with being a parental figure for their employees often burn out faster, which I learned that the hard way, and unintentionally disempower their teams, which I didn't even think about that as like a side effect of how I just thought I was being very caring. But it was disempowering to people when you're not really treating them like professionals and you're stepping in to save the day. So the truth here that I am now come to love is that it's okay to care, that leaders care, but that doesn't mean we have to carry the weight of everyone's jobs. At the end of the day, we're hiring great people. They are adults, they are professionals, they were hired because they're great at their jobs, and you need to let them be responsible and accountable for their own performance. My job is more about creating the right environment, finding the right people, creating the culture, the environment, having the resources, the things they need to support them, but I don't need to carry that burden with me home every night. So some tips here, am I supporting or am I rescuing team members who are struggling? And am I empowering them? I need to be shifting from thinking about taking care of everyone to really thinking about how am I empowering and supporting them with their work. And so leadership is about support, not saviorhood, is my mantra there to keep me grounded. This is a quote from Sheryl Sandberg here. Leadership is about making others better in your presence and making sure that your impact lasts, in your absence. So again, it's not, I don't need to be in the room. I need to make sure I've set a clear direction, we have the right, culture and environment, and then let everybody do their job.
So when it comes to people's success or failure, I think the simple truth is, it's not about you. When you're overly focused on the team's successes or failures, your ego is kind of at the forefront. I'm sure you've encountered leaders who are really happy to take credit for the successes, but quickly going to blame for anything less than the best result, because it's all about them. Yes, ultimately you have to answer for whether your team or work group or department is doing what's expected, but you may be over-accepting responsibility. Experienced leaders treat their people as fully functioning adults and expect them to take responsibility. They don't coddle them, but neither do they ignore them. They also expect their people to be accountable for what they promise to deliver. Your responsibility is to ensure they know what's required, make yourself available for support and coaching, keep an eye on their progress, be direct, and have any needed, maybe even difficult conversations where you think attention and accountability is required. The best axiom I ever heard when having to give difficult feedback or holding people accountability is this: say what you mean what you say, and don't say it mean.
All right, and I think this is our last one, and I kind of wanted to end here because it's also been talked about a lot, and this was something that impacted me personally, where I really needed to set some, boundaries between my work and personal life. And so this notion that you have to always be available, especially as a leader. So there's a couple studies, I even put two up here because it's so important to me. Microsoft's Work Trend Index, employees and leaders who set clear work-life boundaries reported higher focus, creativity, and resilience. The McKinsey also had a study that found leaders who are practicing self-care, making that time for themselves, that 30-minute meeting a week to focus on yourself and your personal growth, your professional growth. Those are the ones who were rated higher in empathy, decision-making, and overall effectiveness as a leader. So the truth there, and I think this is just really bad in our industry, but being constantly available does not equal effectiveness. That should not be what your performance reviews are rating you on. In fact, it can be negative, right? It can lead to fatigue, poor judgment, strained relationships. You're not always in a happy place when you're working around the clock. So the best leaders need to model what sustainable performance looks like. It gets you better results as a leader. It also is going to give your team permission to set those boundaries and do what they need to do to be their best selves. So model those healthy habits. Do it for yourself first, and then do it for your team. So you're setting a standard at your agency. But man, I love this mantra. I was like, oh, this is so harsh, Jeb, but so true. Strong leaders recharge. Weak leaders burn out. And I definitely had a burnout moment. So I need to remind myself of this. I thought being available made me a strong leader, and now I realized it was really what was weakening my performance. Ariana Huffington, she says we think mistakenly that success is the result of the amount of time we put in at work instead of the quality of time. And I couldn't agree with that more.
Well, so if you as a leader feel like you always want to be on, then I wonder whether you've developed your people enough that someone else can be on while you cycle off and take care of yourself. I mean, do you really always have to be available? Or is there some development work you need to do to prepare members of your team to function independently without you always being on or always on call? This makes me think of a story about a CEO who decided that he needed some time away and announced to his executive team that he was taking a 2-month sabbatical to reduce his stress and take better care of his health. And he explained to the team that he would not be available to be contacted during the entire time he was away. Seeing the shocked and worried looks on people's faces, he ended the conversation by saying, "You're experienced leaders. I trust you can all make this work. Oh, and by the way, if you need me while I'm away, I will need you when I get back." How ready are you to be off rather than always on?
I don't know if I can be that harsh, but I'm thinking about it. But it definitely did underscore the fact that, is this me feeling like I need to always be on? Is it not trusting my team? Have I not prepared them enough? And really making sure I've thought through that, and there is a plan for everyone to be able to cycle off and recharge at the agency. So this is my parting thought to everyone, and again, kind of sums up the journey I've been on. Let's see, my 1-year anniversary, which I will be celebrating of my heart attack, is going to be November 19th. But this is really what I am trying to live with every day, that leadership is not about living up to myths, to whatever different social norms we've all heard and learned about or witnessed, from our bosses as we developed our careers. It's about leading with your own values, identifying and knowing what your strengths, what your superpowers are, and being human. We're all human, our staff, our employees, even our clients are human. And that leadership, this is such a cheesy saying, but it's true, it's a journey. It is not a destination, it's not a finish line. I didn't get promoted to president and suddenly I knew everything. I am still growing and developing every day, just like everybody else in my agency. So really understanding that I need to reframe, again, those expectations I had to be perfect, and to be able to have that impact. So this is, hopefully, there's a little something in here that you guys take away. If you struggle with any of these challenges, maybe it just felt good to hear somebody else say they struggle too. Are we over time, I'm guessing? You're making faces at me.
No,
so
no face.
I can take questions now, or you can find me. Probably if you want better stories, you can find me at the bar later. Does that work?
I think what we'll do, and thank you, Kerry, for sharing that.